We're often called toxic. We're often called entitled as a way to group us together and demean us.
You have to accomplish something in a video game. You have to keep trying to succeed. It really is about you figuring out how to do all this. And that to me sort of shows why the media,
the fake news,
and especially the leftist media, hates games now or hates gamers. They don't like people who solve problems.
Gamers really are the most oppressed group, huh? Okay, let's set some definitions first, because there's two distinct groups at play here. So first off, there's people who play video games. Now this encompasses a hell of a lot of people. I mean, I play video games a lot, I play it all the time. And I don't want them to be lumped in with the other bunch. Which brings me to the other group, gamers. Particularly a good chunk of online gamers and gamer YouTubers. I'm talking about a very specific group of people, and it doesn't include the majority of people that play video games. These are people who strongly self-identify as being a part of the gaming community, whatever the fuck that means. They're often highly active on internet forums, they're incredibly sensitive, they're quick to make judgments, they're very quick to complain, and they have low effort, shallow, reactionary opinions. They'll pretend as though they're victims of some greater powers, whether that's the media or journalists or game developers. Now, if you're just someone who likes to play video games and you don't buy into that other bullshit, then you're not the kind of person that I mean when I talk about gamers in this video. There seems to be a hell of a lot of people, especially on YouTube, that will take some tiny issue, and in some cases literal non-issues, and will blow it completely out of proportion and start churning out some outrage bait content for their stupid fans so they can jerk each other off over some innocuous bullshit until their hate boners subside a little. So a lot of the recent controversy seems to be about gamers complaining about forced diversity in their games. Not because they have any issue with minorities, oh no, they'll never say that, but because of the developers' motivations for doing this. They're clearly just pandering and virtue signaling, because us real gamers don't actually care what kind of character we play as long as the game is good. Or at least, this is the typical line of reasoning that I find common amongst these gamer YouTubers on the internet.
The games industry abuses fake wokeness to get free clicks, and they don't really care about inclusion.
You can't tell me that's not pandering.
What was the point? To pander to the 1% of people in the world that actually care?
Are you doing this for publicity?
It is not about inclusion. That's all a facade.
Most gamers, I would say 99.9% of gamers don't care.
Who cares?
It's because we don't care.
Yes, queen.
yeah.
The game community doesn't care about this stuff.
So I recently downloaded this new app, and this shit will change your life. Like, it's legitimately revolutionary. I think it's only available on Android though. So anyway, this app, it actually detects and records your brain signals, and using that information, it can actually rewire your brain. Yeah, it's amazing. So that the things you claim to not care about, you can actually ignore. Yeah, it's holy shit, it's fucking mind-blowing. I guess all these YouTubers just don't have access to this app, because they'll claim to not care, and then they'll end up making a 10-minute video just bitching and complaining. That kind of thing really makes you wonder. So the amazing Lucas and TheQuartering there were talking about the game Apex Legends that apparently has a couple of LGBT characters in there. And I've played quite a bit of Apex by now because I really like the game, and that's how they came up in my recommended feed, because I've been watching some Apex videos as well. And what's funny is I didn't actually know there was a gay character in this game until I saw the videos from these two guys. Because I literally just open up the game and play it, and I genuinely actually do not care. I don't just claim to not care and then go on a 10-minute tirade about how all this fake wokeness is ruining my games. Which, let's be honest, is just code for I don't like seeing gay people in my games. I'll elaborate more on that a little bit later on when I go over why this fake wokeness argument is full of shit too. It's not like when I open up Apex Legends, there's just a giant rainbow dildo on my main menu screen. Like, you literally wouldn't know about this unless you went out looking for lore. In which case, I think it's completely fair game. I feel like this is really obvious to say, but that if you actually don't care about something, you'd probably just ignore it. And the fact that so many of these gamers complain so vociferously, in my opinion, that kind of betrays and reveals some of what is going on in their mind that they're not really being upfront about. I mean, if it just kind of makes you uncomfortable to see gay people in your game, just fucking admit it, dude. I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit harsh on these guys. You know, I'm sure they're actually pretty reasonable people. I'm probably even taking this out of context. Let's have a look at some of their other content so I can prove myself wrong. Okay, let's look at TheQuartering. I wonder if he's made a video about the Battlefield shit, because I made one about that. I'd be curious to see his take on it. Wait, what's this? Get woke, go broke? Didn't he just say that gamers are actually pretty inclusive in his Apex video? Because they actually don't care about representation or who they play as. And then he says that gamers will not support you if you try to be too inclusive. It's almost as if he shifts goalposts and picks the narrative depending on how well the game does. Oh god, and he sells merch too.
I really wanted to play with Caustic. You know, the only, apparently the only, they might, you know, a little, a character I can identify with, let's say, in terms of, you know, a variety of reasons. But I mean, you're launching the game with basically three female characters, Bloodhound's a male character, Gibraltar, and then a robot.
Yep, he really showed us how much he doesn't care there. Damn, if only the robot could have been a white male, this could have all been avoided.
And then a robot.
Oh, I see. So he's either really stupid, and he doesn't see the contradiction here, or he's a hypocritical, spineless grift artist that pretends to be annoyed so he can keep pissing out his garbage videos day by day. Alright, let's check out the black dude. The amazing Lucas. Oh, a video about the Kevin Hart Oscar snub. Let's have a look at that.
As a heterosexual man who likes women, how am I going to raise someone who does not like women, who likes men? Same reason why I wouldn't want a daughter. It's the last thing I want. I'd be too alienated. Like, I want a son. I want someone who I can relate with. Like, son, this is how, you know, your first fight and stuff like that.
Wait, did my man just say that there's no female or homosexual that he can relate to on any level?
If he's talking about, hi, daddy, how you doing, daddy? Can we get some Cocoa Puffs up in here? I'm like, yo, what? What?
Oh, and that's what he thinks of all gay people. Alright then. So man who claims to not care about the characters he plays in video games releases a video complaining about said characters in that video game, and has also talked about not being able to relate to anyone except for straight men. Even if the woman or the homosexual is his own child, he cannot relate to that person at all. I think he's kind of making the argument for more gay representation, to be honest. And it's funny, every time I hear one of these guys complain about this shit, they inevitably end up being just batshit crazy or just really, really stupid.
What happens is the gay mafia comes after Kevin Hart. The gay mafia, he's one of those. You want to know the quickest way to see who's exactly in power? Those behind the curtains who are actually in power. Is to see who you can and cannot criticize. And lo and behold...
And he's now saying that gay people control the world. Okay, that's one that I haven't heard before, I'll admit. Surely he's like a fringe YouTuber, right? I doubt he has much of a following, because if there's one thing YouTube has taught me, it's that only reasonable people can get to high subscriber... Oh, no, fuck. Oh. Well, I'm done. Just fucking end me. Fucking gamers, man. Okay, so what if it's not the gamers that don't care? What about the claim that the developers don't care? They're just doing this to get some good publicity. So I hear this pretty often, that these game developers don't actually care. This seems to happen every time a game announces or is released with some LGBT characters or a lot of female or brown or black characters. And the first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you know? Can you please prove to me that these guys don't care? I find it hard to believe that, not a single person in Respawn Entertainment or in Blizzard or in any of the other games that apparently pander to this agenda, that not a single person in these companies actually care. I'm sure there are some people within these companies that think like, hey, it would be nice if the games industry could give greater representation to this group of people. Because right now, these devs are in a catch-22 situation where no matter what they do or how they present it, if they try to give greater representation to a group of people, they will always be accused of pandering. Now personally, I actually don't really think that the people that run the company, like the board of directors, they probably don't give a shit about giving greater representation. They probably just want to make as much money as possible and have good PR for the company. And in that sense, I can kind of be charitable and accept that, okay, these companies maybe don't care. So if the major complaint here is that these developers and game companies don't actually care about minority groups or LGBT people, and they're only actually doing this to sell copies or garner some good press or good PR, my response to that would be, yes, so what? What's wrong with that? As long as their message isn't harmful, does it really matter? If every company took it upon themselves to have a gay character in their game to pander to a certain audience, but they always portrayed them as like ridiculously stereotypical or as caricatures, then there's an issue. because gay people are only getting a certain kind of representation, and it's possibly a negative one. But I don't really see that happening, so I don't really have an issue, regardless of the motives of these developers. It clearly doesn't hurt the product if you look at Apex Legends, which is a really fun game, and as long as the message isn't harmful or detrimental to society in some way, or if Blizzard and Respawn employees aren't going around lynching gay people when no one's looking. I mean, what the fuck? Why does it matter? So where is the bad part in all of this? Because gamers don't care, minority groups get the representation that they want, game companies who apparently don't care, or they do, I don't really know, they get to have their good PR and sell copies. So what's the downside in all of this again?
They care about getting free clicks. Representation in video games is irrelevant. It doesn't really sell copies. It sells tweets. It's a marketing tactic.
Wait, did he just say that doing this only sells clicks and good PR? That it doesn't actually sell copies? Does he not realize that those extra clicks and more people being aware of the game actually translates to games being purchased, right? Like, he says that they want these clicks, but to what end? He never explains that. Because he then says that it doesn't actually sell games. You market your game to ultimately sell it, right? Or is every game just meant to stand on its own merit with zero marketing behind it and still attract a sizable player base doing that? What the fuck is he expecting? What would be the point of getting these free clicks if it doesn't actually lead to games being sold? The only way this makes sense is if he's somehow arguing that it's not being sold because of the greater representation afforded to minorities, but because these publications like that they're giving greater representation, even though that in itself doesn't lead to greater sales. The fact that these publications like it leads to greater sales, which is kind of just a mental idea if you think about it, is because he's presupposing the idea that representation doesn't matter to minority groups, even though it's basically already accepted among academic circles and has been confirmed by a lot of studies that it actually does matter a lot to people. He's arguing with an established consensus here and a mountain of evidence that suggests that, yeah, it really does matter a lot. So this whole line of reasoning, that these game developers don't care so it's such a horrible thing to do, it's just based on some vague hunch that they probably don't because they are big corporations. But then these guys don't even think that. They think that these actions aren't even driven by the motive to make money. They think that developers do this so they can push some agenda for no reason.
I just don't think your free-to-play battle royale game is the place to push these agendas or try to promote this stuff, man. It just doesn't make any sense, and it's just so obviously forced into the game that it just kind of turns people off, in my opinion.
Get your agenda, get your propaganda, get your politics out of my game.
So if they're pushing an agenda, it's either because they care about that agenda or they want to make money. You can't on one hand say that they don't care and they disingenuously force this into their game to pander to some people, but that also at the same time that they're not motivated or driven by the opportunity to make more money. You can't have it both ways. Wait, where have I heard that before?
You can't have it both ways. Representation in video games is irrelevant. A character I can identify with. You can't have it both ways.
Really, the only reason that any of this actually feels forced is because it's either a message that you're not used to or a message that you disagree with. But either way, at least be honest to yourself and your fans. And don't hide behind the SJW pandering developer boogeyman bullshit. Now, I know a lot of my video has been about gamers getting butthurt about the representation stuff, but that's because that's what a lot of the recent wave of anger has been directed towards. But there are so many different instances of gamers on the internet proving themselves to be incredibly sensitive. Like when a boomer like Jimmy Kimmel makes a kind of shitty, kind of out of touch, but overall pretty harmless joke about video game live streaming, the reaction to that was mind-blowing. Or when Blizzard announced the new Diablo on mobile, even though they already tried to temper expectations before BlizzCon. Like, damn, chill. I guess real gamers don't play on mobile, huh? Which is some gatekeeping bullshit. I mean, I get that it was probably a blatant cash grab, but I mean, that still doesn't warrant completely losing your shit. So I'd like to know, how the hell did these people get so sensitive? And where does all this outrage come from? If you're an avid fan of video games, you're likely to be pretty well off, and you're likely to have quite a lot of free time. This means that you probably don't have a lot of major issues in your life, at least not ones with broad social or political implications. And yet, you want something to fight for. And I get it, we all need a purpose, we all need something to struggle for in our lives. Because when you see other people pushing for progress on an issue that might affect them, you might feel like as they push forwards that you are going backwards. And that can feel kind of shitty. So you want to join in and fight for some crusade too. You still think about what affects me, and it could be the most insignificant, minute, nonsensical bullshit, and yet you want it to be significant. You want to think that it's something that truly negatively affects you. And so you blow it up in your mind, and you listen to anyone that blows it up for you, and who will minimize or dismiss the experience of others, or whatever cause they're advocating for, like greater representation. And I realize that this all probably comes off as pretentious, armchair, psychological rambling, and that maybe I'm being a bit presumptuous here, and obviously this won't apply equally to everyone with this kind of mentality. But I'm just trying to understand the kind of person that would watch some of these gamer YouTubers and think like, yeah, they're making some really good points, and start getting mad about whatever it is that YouTuber tells them they should be mad about. Now, that's only a small part of it. Another part of it is that you end up with these influential figures online that are either really stupid, or they know that this sort of thing garners interest, and so they prey on this need for outrage by commodifying it, and they sell you this shit every day. Just absolute drivel that does not matter, but they package it in such a way, and it turns into this feedback loop of dopamine hits. And eventually you come to fetishize this outrage. You can't have enough of it. You want to keep talking about how these people are so dumb for caring about shit, and that you don't really care, but I'm gonna... Look at how hypocritical everyone is, and look at how much they're pandering. The sad part about all this is there are actual issues within gaming that kind of get glossed over because it doesn't feed the outrage feedback loop they rely on to make their income. You know, there's stuff like worker conditions, predatory gambling practices, game companies feeling indentured to their shareholders rather than aiming to serve their customers with a quality product or treat their employees well. If there's one thing that gamers should figure out, it's that they are not victims. Stop trying to feel like it. There's no wide media agenda against you. Gamers are in the best place now than they have ever been in the mainstream. You can see that in the rise and growth of esports. I mean, Ninja is a freaking rock star right now, going on shows like Ellen, and more people are playing video games than ever before. Stop trying to play the victims when you're not. Stop fueling this garbage content with the assumption that there's this great monolith of people and SJWs and journalists and developers and mainstream media that are all out to get you. A healthy skepticism of the media you consume or of developers' motivations is fine, but Jesus Christ, not everything is an attack on you and your way of life. I know that a lot of people ironically say gamers rise up or whatever, but that is a genuine sentiment that some people feel. And the sad thing is about these influential figures on YouTube is you don't know how many of them are legitimately stupid and actually believe this stuff, and how many of them are just aiming to capitalize on churning out stuff that they know is not really true, just so they can feign being mad at something and can pander to their audience of gamers and bigots. And isn't that the greatest virtue signal of all?